Can he follow up?
Still a lot of round left.
Did you guys see that? Not only was Canelo frustrated, he looked like he wanted to quit. He's lost before, but he's never been laughed at, picked apart, and manhandled quite like this. And where he might have called for an immediate rematch in the past, this time he's only focused on giving praise to the victor. Terence "Bud" Crawford did the impossible. He kept his skill and speed despite jumping up 2 weight classes. He didn't let himself get bullied, and he made boxing's biggest star realize that even at the highest stage, there are still levels to the game. Have you ever noticed that all the big boxing websites give you different times for the main event? And some don't even list fights from rival promotions. I got fed up, so I built my own. Nextfight.co has all the major fights, adjusted to your time zone, and manually updated ring walk times. There's no app, no articles, and no annoying ads. Help support the channel by checking out Nextfight.co. It's not often that 2 of the best boxers in the world square off. There's politics involved, vast amounts of money, and they have to be roughly the same size. In fact, it's only happened 4 times this decade. It's rare, but when the stars align, it's the greatest sport on earth. Now, you'd expect such high-profile fights to be close and competitive, and they usually are. But Crawford is not your typical champion. In the 2 biggest bouts of his career, he's completely smashed his opposition. I don't want to say he made it look easy, but the way he pummeled Errol Spence and dismantled Canelo Alvarez begs the question, just how great is Terence Crawford? Floyd Mayweather, Dimitri Bivol, and now Crawford have all beat Canelo, but who did it the best? From a pure numbers perspective, it was Floyd who had the best offensive performance, landing a disgusting 46% of his punches. He hit Canelo 232 times in what I think was the clearest, most dominant victory of the 3. To my surprise, Dimitri Bivol had the best defensive performance, limiting Canelo to a measly 84 punches. He beat arguably the best version of Alvarez and did so without so much as a mark on his face. So if he was hit the most by Mayweather and missed the most against Bivol, why does it feel like the Crawford loss was the most demoralizing? It might be a matter of expectation. When he fought Floyd, he was far from the complete fighter he would eventually become. Canelo was considered fairly green when he fought the pound-for-pound #1 ranked Mayweather, and getting outclassed by an arguable GOAT is nothing to be ashamed of. When he fought Bivol, he was daring to be great by challenging the naturally bigger man. For someone who started his career at 140 pounds, even being competitive at 175 is impressive. And he didn't lose his titles, he just failed to capture another. But losing to Crawford is another story. Common sense dictates that a good big man always beats a good little man. There was just no way that a welterweight champion could leapfrog 3 divisions and beat a super middleweight champion. Bud met Canelo at his prime weight, with 0 stipulations, and boxed a masterclass. To put this into perspective, the last time a lightweight turned welterweight moved up and challenged Alvarez, Amir Khan got sent to the hospital, and that was only a 2-division jump. Size has historically outweighed greatness. When Roberto Duran challenged a naturally bigger Tommy Hearns, he found out why they call him the Hitman. And Duran had already been acclimated to the new weight. After a brief stop at 154, Crawford executed his big leap without so much as a tune-up fight. After 13 months out the ring, at a weight he'd never even fought at before. He basically jumped straight to the final boss and left with all 4 of his belts. The truth is, this was always a lose-lose for Canelo. If he chins Crawford, he was always supposed to. But if he gets outworked by the smaller man, it's a massive upset. Crawford had all the glory to gain, and rightfully so, he's being compared to other great weight jumpers. And after looking at the numbers, it's hard to place him anywhere but the top. Here's a graph of modern-era pound-for-pound legends. The lower circle shows their lightest championship division, and the upper indicates their heaviest. In the 80s, we saw Leonard and Hearns win across 5 entire weight classes. The fact that Duran started at lightweight and even shared the ring with these 2, let alone beat one, instantly makes him an all-time great. And special praise should be given to those who began their careers below heavyweight, but put on the muscle to compete and even win in boxing's biggest division. Alexander Usyk made the leap from cruiserweight, but Roy Jones Jr. became heavyweight champion as a former middleweight. As with all boxing debates, it's hard to not pick the one and only Roy Jones. Floyd Mayweather and Oscar De La Hoya spanned 5 and 6 divisions respectively. Can you believe that a 112-pound champion fought both of them? But in a way, Crawford and Usyk are the perennial top 3 in the rankings, depending on who you ask. Inoue is by far the most active, having beaten 16 champions across 4 divisions. His only critique is that he hasn't had that one career-defining signature victory against a worthy rival, but that's mostly because he's knocking out all the competition. And by the nature of the sport, Usyk has only conquered 2 weight classes, but the giants he's slaying also happen to be 50 pounds heavier than him. Which leaves us with Terence "Bud" Crawford. A champion in 5 divisions means he's joined boxing royalty, but his claim to greatness comes not from the frequency of his fights, but from the way he dominates elite competition. He makes the best of the best look lost in the ring. He did dispense what no man had done before and bludgeoned him into an early retirement. But the way he beat Canelo to the punch, outworked him in every exchange, and even matched him in power, cements this victory as one of the greatest performances of all time. It was evident from the weigh-ins that Canelo's size advantage was severely overstated. Crawford put on the weight intelligently, over time and all muscle. They had practically identical statures, with Bud maybe even being a little bigger. Suddenly, it was no longer skill versus size. This would be a contest of pure technical ability. From the opening bell, it was immediately apparent that Crawford was the faster man. His counterpunching kept Canelo honest, and after catching him multiple times on the way in, the champion's offense looked terribly one-dimensional. Canelo really hasn't had a jab since 2019. Long are the days of his slick head movement and combination punching. He's since opted for power punches to the body and shoulders in hopes of creating an opening. It helped him become undisputed, but against Crawford, that opening never came. Contrast Canelo's heavy hooks and single shots to Crawford's multi-punch combinations. He may not be able to match him in pure, loaded-up, one-punch power, but his 3, 4, 5-punch flurries definitely had Canelo buzzed. The only remaining question was if Bud's chin would hold up at the new weight class. It got touched a couple times, but never flush and never without hitting a parry or a shoulder first. He didn't show any ring rust after a year of inactivity, and his cardio was in 15-round condition. Even his wrestling background came into play. Against the ropes, he was able to muscle Canelo around and dictate where he wanted the fight to be. He simply had an answer for everything. Don't get me wrong, Canelo is still faster, stronger, and better than 99% of the division. He had flashes of skill and speed that reminded of his prime. It's just that he's 1B to Bud's 1A. After 12 rounds of hard-fought exchanges and narrowly avoiding the death blow, Crawford was declared the new, undisputed super middleweight champion. The only man to hold all 4 belts in 3 divisions. This is what greatness looks like. Bud took the kind of risk we used to beg Mayweather to take, and it's elevated his legacy into legendary territory. His career can best be defined by his last 3 fights: a welterweight whooping of Errol Spence, clearing uncharted territory against Israil Madrimov, and a clinic against the face of boxing. 3 champions, 2 undisputed titles, and 1 mega fight that will be talked about for generations. I actually think Madrimov gave Bud his toughest challenge, but that's for another video. And if we can learn anything from the first UFC-promoted boxing match, it's that a loss shouldn't tarnish a legacy. Canelo is still every bit of the living legend that his body of work demands. He just has a few problems with faster, longer technicians. We are witnessing a golden era of pound-for-pound boxing. Today's best fighters continue to challenge themselves and rewrite the narrative on size versus skill, and no one embodies precise, calculated, technical skill more than Terence Crawford.